there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path, and this is your Must Know Monday for Monday, May the 2nd. A few months ago, I posted in our closed Facebook page asking people what they wanted to learn, about beading, materials, whatever. So, last month we went through and answered some of those questions. Well, this month I'm going to continue answering those questions, but it's going to take a whole month to answer one question. And please forgive me if I do not say her name right, but Alma Ali, A-L-I, sent in a question and she said, what about a loom? I want to know how to finish off a loom bracelet. Well, that's great, and I'm going to teach you that. But there's a lot that we have to get through before I can answer that one single question. Now, once Alma had wrote on about that, several other people have asked various questions about the looms. So I thought it would be a great thing to kind of start out. Like this week, I'm going to talk to you about a loom and show you how to get it set up. Next week, I'm going to show you how we actually start beading on it. And then we'll progress until we get to the end and I can show you how to finish it off and answer Alma's question and then be able to show you the different ways to finish off loom bracelets. A lot of people are afraid of a loom because they're used to a traditional loom. With a traditional loom, when you get finished, you have lots and lots of threads left over that you have to do something with. And it's just not fun. Now, some people do it and it's amazing and they do wonderful, wonderful work. And hey, all power to you because y'all are awesome for dealing with that. But a great guy named Paul Ricks came out with a beading loom that is awesome. It's called the Ricks Beading Loom. This is what this sweet baby looks like. And with his loom, you literally, once you finish and you've got the bracelet completely done, you literally only have 2 threads left to deal with. You have, if it's an even count of threads, both threads will be on one side. If you have an odd count, then you'll have 1 thread on each side. So it's really, really great to deal with. So the first thing that you need to know is how to set up a Ricks Beading Loom. Ricks Beading Looms are made exclusively through the Beadsmith Company, and you're going to find them at a lot of bead stores. The price ranges from $40 to $50 depending on the store, and at first, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to sell these or keep these because that is expensive. But let me tell you, every person who has purchased one of these from me loves it. And I love it. And I've done more loom work than I think I've ever done. So, when you purchase it, it comes just like this, set up. As you can see, if you look straight on it right here, you have a screw here and a screw here. This is going to determine your length of whatever you're working on. So I'm going to do a bracelet. So this is going to determine my length of the bracelet. Now, before you can determine that completely, also in the kit, you get little bars. And these little bars have clear earring backs on them. Well, that's what it is. I'm sure they call it something else, but let's just be honest. It's a clear earring back. So when you get your bar, you put a clear one on one side, and then if you look at the loom, it has little eye hooks here and here. So you slide the bar through the eye hooks on one side. And then we're going to take our little clear back and we're going to slide it onto the other side. And when you slide those, you want those clear backs to be all the way up against your little loops here and here. Like you don't want any movement in the bar. So once you do that one, you're going to do the same thing on the other end. So you'll have 2 bars, 1 in each of your little eyes. So give me just a second to get that going here. So your length now will be determined from bar to bar. And normally you want to leave yourself about 1 inch to add your clasp. The thing you have to be aware of, I am a very tight stitcher and tight warper, wefter person. So what can happen is if you pull the threads that we're actually going to be putting on here, if you pull those very tightly, this top part can push in a little bit. This bar can actually pull in. So you have to be careful. Normally what I do for my bracelets on a loom is if I wear a 7-inch bracelet, I'm going to make this about 6 inches, and then I'll add another 1/4 inch, so 6 1/4 inches, so that it will take into account the movement if I pull the my warp threads and weft threads tightly. So that's one thing you have to be aware of. So example, you wear a 7-inch bracelet, you'll probably want to do from length here to here 6 1/4 inches. So to move this bar, this one is stationary, but to move this bar, all you have to do is take these screws and wind them out, and then this bar is movable. I'm not going to move my bar. I'm not going to move my bar to show you, because my bar is exactly where I need it to be for the size, and I'm very selfish. I don't make these for other people. I just make them for myself. So that's why the bar is staying where it's at. Now, if you are going to be awesome and you're going to be really sweet and make these for some other people, if you find the size that you really like, you may want to take and mark here on the side where the bar is at for you, so that way you'll know exactly what size you need. So that's the basic setup of your loom. You also have these great little things. They're golf tees. Let's be honest, they're just short little golf tees. But there is a slit, and I can't really show you because it's hard to see. Maybe we can get it in here. I'm not really sure. Yeah, okay. So there we go. Okay, so you can see the little split in the golf tee. And what this is going to do, this little split is going to hold our thread. And if you look on the loom, it has holes here and holes here. These little holes are what's going to hold our golf tees into place, and they're going to hold our thread into place as we start to do the loom. So now we actually want to start setting up the thread for the loom. So give me just 1 second and let me get my threads together, and I'll show you. The first thread you have to worry about when you're setting up your loom is what's called your warp thread, your W-A-R-P, warp thread. Warp thread is the one that's going to go from here to here, okay? So this is going to be the length. With the warp and the weft, W-E-F-T, the weft thread is actually what we're going to be weaving back and forth with. You can use pretty much any kind of cording or thread or leather, whatever you want. I've seen some really cool bracelets made with leather where they use the leather as their warp thread, and like a fire line or a nylon cord as their weft thread. And it's really cool because with a loom, you really have lots of choices. You can use any size bead. You can use a 2-hole bead. I mean, you can use anything. It's awesome. But what I'm going to show you today, or this whole month, I should say, is I'm going to be working on a project. This is a pattern. I love anchors. Like, I'm so into anchors and their symbolism and what they mean right now in my life. So I found a really cool pattern. A girl actually created the pattern to be a friendship bracelet pattern where you do it, you weave it with the little threads and the knots, but that is beyond me. Like, I just can't. So I actually plugged this in to a wonderful app or software that I'm going to speak more about, and I kind of did a little version of it myself, so that way I can show you a pattern on actually what we're doing. So my pattern is going to have 20 beads across the bracelet. So we're going to start out with 20 beads. What that means is my warp thread is going to have to be 21 warp threads, okay? So if I had 12 beads that I was going to have, then I would start out with 13 threads. However many beads you're going to have, you always have to add one more warp thread because you have to have a thread at the beginning and the end. And you're going to see what I mean as we progress. So I'm going to show you how I set up this. It's not let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? This is my interpretation of how I do it. This doesn't mean that it's the best way. This doesn't mean that it's the correct way that a professional work person might tell you or looming person might tell you. This is just how I found that I like to do it. And a lot of times what I like to do, I know you guys, you know, it kind of transforms into you guys too. So I'm going to show you my interpretation, okay? So if you have a better way of doing it, please tell us, share it on the comments so that way other people will know. But let me get this camera moved so I can show you actually how I'm going to do my warp. Now I'm going to be doing the warp with an 8-pound fire line, and I'm going to be using the crystal color because most of the beads that I'm going to be using are lighter color beads. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is take your peg, and I'm going to leave my thread on the spool for now. And I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to stick it down through the little slit that is in the golf peg. Just like this. And I'm going to wrap a little bit of that excess thread around the peg. And I'm going to stick it in this first hole here in the corner. Now let me get this rolled back up. I'm just making a hot mess here. Okay. So, when we start out, we go, the mantra you need to know is over. So, we're going over and then under. So, we're actually going under the bar this time. And then our thread will go over, under, over. And you see I'm putting my finger here, and then the thread's going under, over, under. And so far I have 4 threads, and I need 21 total. So I'm going to keep going over, under, under, and I'm just going to keep up until I have 21 threads, and I'm counting every single thread here to get my 21. Now I have my 21 threads, and you count those by actually counting every single thread. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So I have 21 threads here. That means my thread started here and it finished here on the other side. So all I did once I finished that last thread, I brought it over and then I trimmed the thread and put it around my peg so that now I have the loom actually set up and ready to go. So I hope that you understand now how to set up a loom, especially the Rick's loom. It's very, very easy to set up these looms and it's pretty quick. Your biggest concern on this loom is to make sure that you have an even amount of tension throughout your warp threads, because that's going to be very important when you actually get started. So be sure and come back next Monday where I'm going to show you how to read a word pattern, how to read the graph pattern, and then how we actually start doing our first couple of rows on a loom. I hope you guys have a great week and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.